My name is Sergeant Estrada, Frank or Francisco, either one for first name will work. By way of the Marine Corps, I was a 2531 as a field radio operator. That was my MOS, my only MOS. However, as most of you all know, when you get your MOS, you don't just do your MOS for life. You kind of learn other things along the way. I had the good fortune of being able to be sent to a Arctic survival course up at the Mountain Warfare Training Center up in Bridgeport, California. That's where Marines are sent to do cold weather training, and they also have a summer mountaineering course. My course was a little bit different. It basically just focused on the ability to be able to survive in cold weather conditions. And not only to survive for yourself, but to lead Marines. The goal of it is to take one Marine that's Arctic survival trained and be able to take 15 Marines into combat situations and bring them all back. It's 1 week of nothing but periods of instruction, a couple of field exercises, but then the second week is a period of instruction that takes place out in the actual Arctic conditions. I think about the 2 days just before actual knowing that you're going to be out in the field, it was kind of, people were a little worried about what they were going to be facing. So morale appeared to be high, but we knew that we had bonded in that week, and being Marines, and there was a couple of Navy personnel there and one Army person. We kind of learned to rely on each other for the day-to-day periods of instruction and studying and the little exams that we had. And August 2nd of 1990, of course, as we all know, Desert Storm happened, or we should say Saddam Hussein invaded the country of Kuwait, which caused us to react into what was called Operation Desert Shield. That was 1990. I think I was sitting around at my parents' house maybe that Tuesday afternoon when Corporal Salazar had called me and said, "Hey, Estrada, the Eagle has landed." I didn't know what that meant. I had never heard that term before, but being as how we knew what was going on in the news, I kind of knew that that was time. It was time to pack up your stuff, give a couple of hugs, and go. We had Thanksgiving dinner and deployed that same Friday. We reported into base, started getting some medical evals, shots, the whole nine. You know, it's interesting. I was a Lance Corporal when I got activated to go to Operation Desert Shield. I reported to Corporal Salazar, and then above them there was a couple of sergeants, etc. And morale was great. Reporting in, everybody was excited. Of course, somehow, as luck would have it, there was word of a couple of dissenters. There was one sergeant in particular from our platoon that reported in with a broken leg. And then the next day, another sergeant reported in with a broken arm. And it just seems so ironic that over the past several months, doing some exercise in the desert, everything was fine. But then now when we're getting deployed, people got hurt. I don't remember any corporals or lance corporals or PFCs in our unit that reported in injured. When I became an NCO, I remember thinking back at those lessons and how I felt, seeing that there was one or two sergeants left in our platoon that actually were gung-ho enough to be ready to go. I learned that I have to be willing to do it, whatever it is. Being deployed and going overseas and knowing that you're going to be in a combat situation or at least in the theater of operations, I definitely have to be the one that knows something so that everybody else that's watching can have some kind of faith in me. Leadership, as it relates to leading your peers, is one of those things that are very tricky. Your peers are also going to be bucking for that next promotion or even that next position within the unit to be able to be that guy that they rely on for XYZ. You can't come off as pompous and having some kind of attitude and at any time put anybody else, any one of your peers down in any way, but you have to be able to thrive and push through that leadership by giving examples to your peers about why you're so tech savvy. And what I mean by that is not only knowing your job, but knowing about other people's jobs and how things function to make that platoon operate, to make things happen. I have to be able to know that. And there's no book that's going to go give you those insights as to how things work. You know, early on as a Lance Corporal, I remember as I reported into Corporal Salazar, I always saw it as an opportunity to make Corporal Salazar shine. I did always realize that I would see him get accolades and a pat on the back, and then he in turn, without singling me out as a Lance Corporal, would say, "Good job, Estrada. Good job." He was a big Cuban guy, so he would say it in Spanish, and he wouldn't always say it in front of everybody else. But I knew that whatever it was that I was doing to make him shine was making him get that better. He actually did get promoted to sergeant. Shortly thereafter, though, he made sure that I got promoted to corporal. So I think he took care of me. But I think he took care of me because I went out there and I raised my hand and I volunteered and I said, "I'll do it." And he would say, "All right, Corporal, take 4 Marines or take 5 Marines and go get this done and go get that done." So I always remember that I had to make him shine, and to make him shine was to fulfill whatever that mission of the day was. So as a sergeant, when I became a sergeant, I always thought the same thing of my superiors. Now it's going to be another sergeant maybe that I report to, or a staff sergeant, or a gunny, or a master sergeant, or even the platoon commander. I got to understand what it is that they're charged with and what they need members of the platoon to do. And I have no shame in raising my hand. I still need to make them shine. But then I got to remember back to my days as a junior NCO, or maybe even as a non-NCO, how I got to look for those Marines that are willing to step up and raise their hand and learn those technical aspects of whatever that mission takes that day, whatever we need to do to accomplish the mission of the day, even if it's in combat theater of operations, or even back at the shop, taking care of radios, taking care of vehicles, doing maintenance, going out there and raking the sand or something like that. Who's going to be those Marines that are going to be willing to do it? I got to find those guys, and I got to bring them up, and I got to challenge them with the ability to be able to take on that task, knowing full well, like I did, when you see somebody else doing it, you think, well, if he's going to do it, well, I can do it too. Or there's no shame in doing this or that because I'm going to do it. Or the sergeant's doing it. Or the captain's willing to do it. Well, I'm going to do it too. Everybody else is going to see me do it, and I hope that they do the same thing. Because things change when you get out there in the theater of operations, for example. You want the same things that happen in garrison to carry out into the field, whether it's a field exercise in another state or an exercise that's real life scenarios in another country. You know, I take those lessons out of the Marine Corps and I try to apply them day to day. I happen to be in a field of work that is no different than any other field with regards to finding out what the mission of the day is and making sure that it gets done. When I have peers around me, I need to find a seamless way of doing a standardized task, a standardized way. We have to have a way of doing things. We have to have a certain form that everybody uses the same form. If you're going to be doing a checklist for something, oh, you got a checklist for that? Hey, let's get together and I'll give you my ideas. We'll come up with the same checklist for the same task, and then we'll share it with everybody else so that we can accomplish the mission for the day. I have a boss, he happens to be a manager. I need to make that manager shine. I need to understand what it is that he has to report, what he has to produce, so that I can help him produce that for him. I know that in turn, what I expect, as if I was in the Marine Corps, I would expect the support. Not only the support in material and resources, but I need the support in the latitude as well. Because you know what? Eventually, I need to take a break. You know what? I need some R&R time. Whether it's 4 hours or 4 days, I want to be able to say, I'm taking some R&R. I'm going to go and do my thing. And I know that he's going to be able to say, he or she's going to say, you know what? We'll see you when you come back. So, do I take lessons from the Marine Corps and try to apply them to real life, civilian life? Yeah, all the time. What I hear is that the best made companies are run by Marines. Why? Because we have a certain way of doing things. I'm not saying we do it right all the time, but doggone it, we do it the same way every single time. Eventually, we get better. Every single day, we get better at doing something. And somehow, we come up with a good formula at the end of the day. If I can remember one thing as a junior Marine that I did, and sometimes it was a mistake. In fact, I think I still have pictures. I was not afraid to raise my hand. I was not afraid to take on that fire watch that weekend so that everybody else can go on liberty. And you know what? It wasn't so much that I needed or wanted everybody else to go on libo and I wanted to stay on base. Maybe I didn't have the money, or maybe I just wanted to save some money. But you know what? Sometimes I got some really good duty. Sometimes I had to go clear out the porta potties, pump them out, put them with clean fluid, go take out the trash. And I did that all Saturday. I had to rake all the sand everywhere. That's fine. But one time I raised my hand and they put me on a helicopter. We flew out to Yuma and we learned how to do call for fire. It saved my life because when I got deployed, I was that guy. There was 5 of us that learned how to do call for fire because we raised our hand. And in the Gulf, that's what I did. I wasn't out there kicking down doors or going into caves and trying to clear out some people looking down the barrel of an AK-47. I was on a hilltop somewhere. I was way out in the rear. Not only that, but I think raising my hand put me in situations where I got to learn things. A lot of times they were technical things. As a leader, you have to be the technical expert. You have to be the technical expert. You don't have to spout it out all the time, but you got to be available to share information. You got to be available to answer the questions. You got to know why. You have to know the why. And when you do know the why, you're not going to get it by just doing your job. You're going to get it by reaching out. You're going to get it by reaching up and volunteering. You're going to get it by doing the extra duty. You're going to be the expert, and people are going to look to you, even though you don't outrank them, and you're going to shine, and you're going to come ahead as a leader. Leadership happens, but you got to make it happen. You got to make it happen.